Wandering Winder here with what I believe is the last day of previews for Dominion Allies, although I think if I'm reading this right, we're expecting it to only be several more days before just the full set is back online. I think? I think? Question mark? Um, yeah, anyhow, let's look at these. Let's jump in. This is all on your screen right now is all of the previews for today. So maybe this will be a shorter video, he says, nervously laughing. Ha ha, before he makes a 3 hour long video. Um, Obviously it's not 3 hours long. You can tell that by looking at your timestamps that show how long the video is now and know that it's remember to put the time in later, Wandering Winder, minutes long. Um, yeah. Anyway, let's jump into it. Importer, 3 cost action duration liaison. At the start of your turn, gain a card costing up to 5. At the start of your next turn, rather. And then setup, each player gets +4 favors. So +4 is going to mean that you start with 5. Each player starts with 5, which, forget the top part of this card. Holy shnikes. I don't know what a shnike is. Um, that, starting with 5 favors, obviously it's going to depend on what ally is around. I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the top 5 fastest card card shaped things once we get some stats on this, because wow. Let's look at just the allies we have so far and what you can do if you start with 5 favors. Let's go all the way up to, where were the Monday previews? Here we go. Cave Dwellers. With 5 of these, you can at the start of your turn cycle through to start with 5 money and then have a shuffle if you want. Um, you probably can do better than that, but this seems like one of the weaker uses for 5 things, and even that is going to speed you up a full turn probably. 5 favors. When you're discarding your hand and clean up, you could turn 1 just buy nothing, save your hand, and open inheritance on turn 2. You wouldn't even have to save your whole hand probably. Um, or just, save 5 times for free without having to spend money on the save. That seems like quite strong as well. Peaceful Cult, the start of your. Yeah, you get to trash all of your estates, and uh, when you're ready to, 2 of your coppers just very early in the game. That is that is like some donate level strength, because you often just donate the once, or you donate to 5 coppers on turn 1. Here you don't have to pay the debt off. That's incredibly strong to be able to do that. Plateau Shepherds, probably the least exciting one for this, is just going to score you 10 points probably, and it's going to score your opponent 10 points too. Um, I mean, I guess it incentivizes you to gain 2 costs a little bit more, but kind of big deal. Uh, yeah, so this one is not an exciting use of the 5 favors, admittedly. League of Bankers. It's a money per 4 favors, so starting with 5 is basically just both players start with the key and have it all game long. Um, all of these can be augmented if there's another liaison, whatever, I guess, but most of them don't need to be. And honestly, it's probably going to make other liaisons in a lot of cases not be that good, because you already have 5 favors and you don't really need too much more in a lot of the cases. But having an extra money per turn every turn is really going to speed you up from turn 1, right? Is really going to speed you up. Instead of opening 4-3 or 5-2, you're going to open 5-4 or 6-3, and you're just going to keep hitting your price points from then on. You don't need to be adding a payload to hit your price points to start to get you going. You're there already. Um, Crafters Guild. Start of your turn, you could spend 2 favors to gain a 4 card costing up to 4 on top of your deck. Turn 1, you open with whatever you were buying normally, plus another 4 on top of your deck. If that's just a silver, uh, I haven't done the math, but 3, 4, you're gonna. I mean, it's. I guess it's like the Nomad camp, right? You're gonna be able to hit 5. Uh, well, on 3, 4, you're gonna be able to hit 5 most of the time, all of the time, 100% of the time, right? On 4, 3, it's not gonna be that often. It's gonna be a lot less, but it could still be quite good. You can do this tactically. You can do it twice. But yeah, you just get to open with extra cards. Admittedly, they're only going to cost up to 4, but if there's some cantrip or moat or something, this is probably also one of the weaker ones for things. Whatever. City State also, I guess, is not that exciting. You're spending 2 favors. You can do it a couple times to innovate, but you can do it early. How important is it to do it early? Yeah, I don't know. That's a bit more dependent. Not so exciting. So some of these, I guess, are not that exciting, but some of them are amazing. Band of Nomads. Yeah, this is probably just going to get you a bunch of buys. Maybe all the buys you need for a game. You don't have to get a plus buy card so much. You can still do the drawing thing to manipulate shuffles. That's fine. Okay, maybe I'm a little overhyped, but there are some of these that are going to be so good to start with 5 favors. Um, Architects Guild, you can open 4 and a 3 and a 3 or something, or get the extra, open with your page and other stuff. That's nice. Um, Getting the extra cards early, I suspect, is better than late, although later, obviously, they can be better cards. So weighing that, yeah, I don't know. Um, Not the most exciting. Island Folk, literally, you're just going to spend these at some point to take an extra turn. Um, you have the whole seize the day question as to when to use it, but you don't have to spend 4 in a buy this time. So I think you just use it as soon as possible in a lot of cases. Like, there's not much reason to wait. I don't know. Somebody's probably going to dispute that with me, and there'll be a thing. Here's the big one, though. Well, the trashing one is probably the big one, and then this is the other big one. When shuffling, you may pick up to two cards per favor you spend to put in your discard pile. Yeah, if you do this like once per shuffle, 5 shuffles is. I mean, that's also almost donate levels of speed, probably. Just getting to trash your estates without having to do anything. It's probably a little bit worse than the trashing one, but holy shnikes. I mean, several of these. It's going to be so strong to start with 5 favors instead of 1. Um, yeah, I guess that doesn't make this card stronger at all, of course. It's going to look, if you would look at the stats pages, whatever, it's going to look like, oh my gosh, this card is completely amazing. It has, like, Pixie being with Goat. Uh, Goat looks like, Pixie looks like one of the strongest cards in the game because all the things end so fast and whatever. But really, it's that's misleading. It's Goat that's doing the work there for you, or it's Lucky Coin that's doing the work, not Fool, whatever. It's the Baker token that's doing the work more than the Bakers. Although obviously there is some interplay in all these cases, and we should talk about the actual card itself, which is a thing that can gain you 5 slowly and terminally. Um, it doesn't gain to hand, so it's a workshop that can gain up to 5 every other turn. I don't think this is that strong, but there's some high roll value at least. And I mean, gaining 5ers, I guess it's really hard for me to evaluate. Obviously, like if you open with this, you see it on turn 3, you've gotten the 5 cost that you wanted to get anyway, and you're probably pretty happy. You see it on turn 4, it doesn't do anything for you until turn 5, and then you're not being able to play the card until turn 7 at the earliest. You're probably not very happy. And you're probably, I mean, you're not going to see this on turn three, but less than half the time, usually. Because you could open this in Star Chart, I guess, although then you're not opening anything else for your deck. Yeah, honestly, that seems not that exciting in a lot of cases. Maybe you pair this with a potion in some cases where you're looking to go potion for university or scrying pool or something, and all of that is slow. You're not doing anything for a while, but you do get to power up stuff. Right once you hit that turn six, whatever, you're starting to do some powerful things. I think this missing the shuffle a lot and taking time and being terminal, all of that um, strikes me as not that strong. Right, I'm not a big one for opening workshops to start with, and then the fact that this is even slower, I suspect I will not get this card very often. On the other hand, obviously being able to gain a card that costs 5 with your 3 cost buy is potentially strong. Potentially, if it comes off well, it would be very, very nice. I just think that the awkwardness of how slow it is and being terminal combined is going to make me not want it very often. But the favors, the 5 favors to start instead of 1, that is going to change a lot of things in a lot of games. And honestly, knowing that you're always going to have that, several of these allies are going to make it to be where um, you really don't have time. I think, right? The right. Several of those are going to make 5 favors. The game is super fast, and I mean, I guess some of them you're shuffling faster, so maybe that is better. I don't know. That probably also needs to be factored in to how strong the card is, but I'm not going to go back and look at all of those again right now. I think the card looks pretty weak in general, but the setup thing is going to be completely bonkers in a lot of cases and just strong in a bunch of others. Like, just, it saves you a whole turn. Oh, well, that seems like one of the more disappointing ones. But saving you a whole turn for free in general is a really strong thing. So, yeah, I mean, but you just get that setup for free, so I don't attribute the strength to the card. Who cares, really? Let's move on to Courier. Courier? Why would I call that Courier? Courier. Um, Courier, 4 cost action, plus a money. Discard the top card of your deck. Look through your discard pile. You may play an action or treasure from it. We have more discardy synergies. So all these discardy cards, yeah, they seem to get powered up by this set. You know, Village Green, uh, Faithful Hound, Tunnel. There seem to be, I don't know, but there seem to be several things that will discard them in this set. So maybe those get a bit stronger in general because there's more synergies for them. Little hard to say. This card in particular, yeah. So first of all, it I mean, it's going to whiff sometimes, right? How often do you get to play this late-ish in the shuffle um, without it being at the absolute bottom of a shuffle? I mean, you could probably work away, but if you're drawing your deck, for instance, when do you play this, right? There isn't probably a good time because you start the turn, because you drew your deck last turn, you start the turn with um, with nothing in your discard pile, and then you're trying to draw your deck, so normally you're going to just be playing the draw cards until you actually draw your deck. And once you've drawn your deck, this is just a terminal copper. So you need to play it before you've drawn everything. But if you just play it in the middle of your turn, then you just have the one card to hit off it. And if you don't have some way to set up what that card is, then this doesn't look so hot. Um, yeah, I don't. That doesn't. I mean, sometimes you're going to have ways to make it reliable, I guess. Let's just. I think the other thing is, let's assume for a second that this works, right? Um, like Mountain Village just works sometimes, right? This gets you some selection and an extra money off playing what I expect will normally be an action card. And if that action is terminal, this is terminal. If it's not terminal, then this isn't effectively going to be terminal. I guess it works with that thing where you can only play so many cards from your hand because you're playing thing from not your hand. Um, Great, hooray! Um, but yeah, so it gets you some selection on on playing a card, and it gets you an extra money compared to just playing that card normally. Um, I guess that's fine, but you really need it to be reliable. This is pretty late in your shuffle, and you probably want it to be some non-terminals, or or you're just playing a big fat money deck or sloggy kind of deck, and this is a way, kind of like Harbinger, to play whatever card again. Whatever card again? No, whatever card once more. Because it's your important card. You're playing your mountebank more often because stuff. Although, like, you need the mountebank to come first. You want to have like multiple mountebanks before you get this. This just doesn't seem that good to me. Doesn't seem that good to me because it seems hard to set up. I mean, I guess if somehow you can get it to be reliable all the time to where your deck is in your discard pile, or your deck is in your discard pile except for one card, because if it's your whole deck, then you trigger a shuffle and it's absolutely weak again. But almost your whole deck is in your discard pile, then great. This is one money better than just playing whatever previous card anyway. Even then, like, shouldn't there be some four cost card that's better than this to add to your deck? This isn't. This seems worse than a peddler, even in that case, usually, right? The peddler, you play the peddler and whatever. So you need this to actually be selection for you, which means you need a big deck, and you need this to be towards the end of your shuffle. And that just seems like too many hoops to jump through. This card looks real weak to me. I'm sure it will have its spots, um, but it almost looks like a similar kind of idea to Harbinger, and mostly worse because it's terminal, so it can be more actively bad than the Harbinger. Like Harbinger, the thing is, when it's good, or when it has a potential to be good, you can just stick it in your deck and it's never going to be that bad for you because it's a cantrip. This has a much worse fail case. I guess if you flip a copper, it's like a silver, and then you didn't have to draw the copper, a terminal silver. I guess it's not that bad. And if you hit like an estate, it's a terminal copper that kind of drew an estate, which isn't that bad, but it's pretty bad. Yeah, I don't. I guess Traveling Fair Counting House will use this. That's something for you. Hooray. Um, Maybe the other Counting House decks can use this too. I Yeah, this card seems weak to me. Let's move on. Royal Galley. It's another 4 cost. This one's an action duration plus a card. Plus a card. That's not something you see very often. You may play a non-duration action card from your hand. Set it aside. If you did, then at the start of your next turn, play it. Well, what does this mean? It's pretty well like a cantrip. Um, Not so much if your deck is full of other duration actions, but assuming that a good chunk or most of the other action cards in your deck are not durations, then it's kind of like a cantrip because you get to play an action card, uh, which plus action lets you play an action card, right? So it's pretty much a cantrip that is then going to let you replay um, whatever action next turn. So that seems good at first blush, right? You play a Smithy, and then you have the Smithy next turn. I mean, you're not. I don't know. You're playing the Smith. You are playing the Smithy every turn, so it's not like the only every other turn thing, because you're playing the Smithy now and you're playing it next turn. Um, yeah, I don't. You play the. I guess it gives you effectively extra action next turn as well. It's kind of like a village in that way, right? If I play the Smithy now, I play the Smithy at the start of my next turn, but it didn't cost me an action to do it. It kind of cost me the action now that it would normally take to play it, but next turn it did. This seems very strong, unless the other actions you want to play on the board are um, are durations. Then being able to play them now and later, right? Most of the durations that you see are kind of priced such that they're taxed down for being durate or for getting the effect twice, right? The fishing village is, I mean, it's also plus cards next turn, right? If you play a village with this, at the start of your next turn, you you have an extra card in your hand. You're at 6 cards, and you've double village. This seems very strong. I think this might be the strongest card in the set. This card seems very, very. Obviously, you need to be able to hit something with it for it to do much. Although, you could probably also play this in a money deck because it's not that bad if you just, you draw your card and there's only treasures. Um, it's just a card in that case. I mean, that's not exciting at all. That's going to be worse than other options a lot of the times. But if you have a money deck with a reasonable number of actions in it, this suddenly seems like super good. I don't. This card just seems. I think this is maybe the best card in the. Obviously, when I say card, I'm ignoring some of the allies. I'm ignoring the setup on this, which could be strong. This just seems really, really good to me. I don't know if I'm missing something, but um, yeah, this seems kind of the strongest card in the set, almost by a wide margin. This seems like one of the strongest fours as well. Let's move on to our allies for the day. So, Family of Inventors. At the start of your buy phase, you may put a favor token you have on a non-victory supply pile. Cards cost 1 less per favor token on their piles. So, I'm pretty sure if I'm reading that right, cards cost 1 less per favor token on their piles, regardless of whose turn it is. Um, so yeah, you're just making cards cheaper, that pile cheaper for everybody. So in order for you to get advantage out of that, you need that card being cheaper to be better for you than it is for your opponent. I mean, the most straightforward application is just that you get to buy a card right away, and since you're the first one that has access to it, you get there a little bit faster. In the opening, this could let you open with a 5. If you're player 1, it's probably going to let your opponent open with it as well. Right? If you use this on turn 2, use it on turn 1 because your 4 is in turn 1, then your opponent is sure going to be able to have their 4 one of their turns. Or I guess maybe they had a 5 anyway. So maybe probably there's a good chance you still do this because maybe they had 5 too. I don't know. You have to determine. Because the thing is, right, you have to figure out when is it going to be the advantageous time to do this for you, and maybe it's more advantageous to save it for later. Um, but you could open that way as player two. If you have a 3/4, you can make a thing cheaper and then grab the five, and your opponent hasn't had a chance to have it cheaper before they shuffled. Which sounds suspiciously like a second player advantage, although I don't really believe that it will be in practice in general. First player still gets faster access. You could be better equipped to make use of a cheap pile if you have more buys or gains to get in at it. But it also does some weird stuff with uh, like like relative costs of cards. I'm trying to figure out what I'm trying to say here. Um, the the example that's coming to my mind is Band of Misfits. You could effectively, if your opponent's gone for Band of Misfits, you could effectively attack them by making Band of Misfits cheaper, which um, makes it do less because there's less things which are cheaper than it for it to see, right? So this is probably going to dissuade you from getting Bands of Misfits. It might seem like it would encourage it because on the flip side with Band of Misfits, you make some other 5 cost card cheaper, and suddenly all your Band of Misfits can be played as that because that card is now cheaper than Band of Misfits was, right? Um, Similar with Captain. I mean, with Captain, it's a different thing, right? Because Captain doesn't care whether it's cheaper than Captain; it just cares whether it costs up to 4. So if you get a bunch of Captains, you make some card cost 4 or less, which would normally have cost 5, and suddenly you're off to the races. Um, that is similar to Overlord, right? Um, the If you just have a way to take more advantage than your opponent, I don't know. This is the thing: is that your opponent's going to be getting the benefit, um, not as much as you, but kind of close. So that's a thing that makes this not be so seem so exciting. Like, this doesn't seem like a reason I'm going to want to pick up more favors very often. There will probably be situations where, uh, right, you have to worry about your opponent building to get some pile to be super cheap. You need to make sure you can take advantage of it if it looks like they're going for getting more favors. Um, but yeah, I don't think this is going to be something you would want to pick up favors for too often, just because, well, I mean, your opponent can take advantage of the cheapening as well as you can. There's probably also some shenanigans, not just with like a Band of Misfits type of thing, but um, with some of the remodel variants. Um, if their plan is to if their plan is to trash for benefit golds or something, you make the golds cheaper. You've kind of nerfed their plan. It's probably, honestly, as an attack against that kind of thing, um, might be one of the bigger impacts, right? You make the golds cheaper, and suddenly they can't remodel them into province with their governors. Suddenly, um, you make the poorhouses not cost. This would be a thing. You make the poorhouses cost 0 instead of 1, and your remake works. So you have to watch out for that. And you could maybe be playing some kind of a game of chicken, right? Where do you open remake? Well, there's poorhouse here. I mean, this is a 3 card combination, and one of them shows up super rarely, so the exact thing isn't going to come up much. But there's upgrade and a few other things that might make it. But yeah, I guess watch for those things which are exactly one more, exactly one less. Develop, upgrade, remake, um, things that care about the exact costs, and and you can shift them around. You can't do victories, but you can shift around a lot of these piles, costs, and shenanigans. Seems to be more important or interesting to me than um, than actually, oh, you get to make a pile cheaper a la Fairy, which is strong because it's cheaper for both of you. Although maybe there will probably be situations where you just pick up a whole bunch of extra buys or gains, and oh my gosh, I've over half an hour already. This is not a shorter video. Anyway, um, where you pick up a bunch of buys and then decide to spring it on some pile, and boom, suddenly they're all cheaper. You can get a whole bunch of them all at once, and that's good for you for some reason, I guess. I don't know. Maybe then you pathfind them or put a teacher token of some sort on it. I don't know. Let's look at the last preview of preview season, which is Gang of Pickpockets. This one is more of an attacky ally. At the start of your turn, discard down to 4 cards in hand unless you spend a favor. Um, this does not seem also something worth going out of your way to get favors for very often. I mean, maybe. Underling is kind of sort of a lab with this because you just spend your favor every turn. Um, Note that if your hand is bigger than 5, you don't have to spend a favor for every card that you don't want to discard. You just have to spend it once, and you keep your whole hand. This is going to nerf things like Expedition, though, if you don't pick up some favor gainers. Flag Bearer, things of that nature. Although it has natural synergy with Village Green, not really with Faithful Hound, I don't think. But with Tunnel, right? Um, a 4 card hand you can learn to deal with. You've learned to deal with it a la Cathedral. With Cathedral, this hardly hurts you at all because you can order your effects to do the Cathedral first, trash a card, and then I only have 4 cards in hand anyway. It probably makes discard attacks less compelling to go for because your militia is only making me discard 1 additional card now. You probably still go for them sometimes, but it's less compelling. This has natural synergy with also Diplomat, with Draw to X, against Haunted Woods, but anti-synergy, like it's going to hurt more against, I don't know, Supplies or Alchemist or things which are stacking your deck, things which are making the best card, your starting hand want to be bigger, so like Shepherd or yeah. And in general, just having 4 card hands instead of 5, even though it's the best 4 out of 5, which is a lot less painful than random 4 out of 5. But in general, starting with 4 cards instead of 5 is going to push you a bit more towards drawing and thinning and getting deck control, because it's like if you're playing money, it's real hard to hit 8 off a 4 card hand, even best 4 out of 5. I mean, I guess it's not that much harder, right? But there's a reasonable amount of time. It's not a trivial amount of time that you needed to use all the cards in your hand, that last copper in your hand, to be able to hit 8. So I think this is probably one that you tank most of the time and just discard, and you use your one save me my 5th card, at a very tactical nature where you really want to have all these cards in your hand. But yeah, I don't know how much it does in general. And like I say, there's a lot of things it actually synergizes with. So yeah, that's it. I'm gonna stop there. Royal Galley seems super strong. Starting with five favors seems, in a lot of cases, super strong. I guess we can talk about these things as well. Yeah, I don't know that it affects either of these that much to start with five favors. This does not seem the cases where it's oh my gosh about it. Starting with five favors on Gang of Pickpockets is probably enough that the money deck can kind of ignore it. Um, because it's not going to be that often that you need all five cards in your hand. Probably, I don't know. I guess it's good against crop rotation. I don't know. Um, yeah, Royal Galley looks super strong. Importer looks not that good. Courier looks pretty bad to me. Um, Allies are only going to show up not so often. I don't know. I'll be back soon. Um, if I'm not already, depending on when you watch this. But if you're watching this soon after it comes out, I'll be back soon as I can, basically, with the rest of the set all in one dump and talk about those. Then, hopefully, we'll start to see some games with this stuff soonish. And yeah, I think that's it for now. Leave your comments, leave your questions, get in the comments section. Um, and yeah, I'll be happy to discuss this with all of you, and then we'll see how these things actually work out in practice. Thanks for watching all these videos, everybody. Um, yeah, have a good day, or night, or afternoon, or I'm going to stop blathering now.